afternoon, as school ended, the children would rush to the giant's garden. It wasn't just any garden, it was magical. Lush, soft grass stretched across the ground like a green carpet, sprinkled with flowers that gleamed like stars. In spring, 12 peach trees would burst into life, draping themselves in delicate pink and pearl blossoms. And come autumn, they bore fruit so rich that the children could taste its sweetness looking. Birds filled the air with melodies so enchanting that even the most mischievous child would pause, letting the songs wash over them. How lucky we are, they would cry to one another, their laughter ringing through the air. But one day, their joy came to a sudden halt. The giant returned. For 7 long years, he had been away, staying with a friend, the Cornish ogre. Now, tired of wandering, he came back to his castle. As he entered his garden, he saw the children playing among the trees. Their carefree laughter grated against his sour mood. "What are you doing here?" he roared, his voice cold and unforgiving. The children froze, fear twisting their faces, and then fled as fast as their little legs could carry them. "This is my garden," the giant thundered, his anger rising. "Only I have the right to enjoy it." Without a second thought, he built a towering wall around the garden, shutting out the world. A signboard loomed at the entrance: "Trespassers will be prosecuted." The children, heartbroken, wandered aimlessly outside the wall, staring longingly at the beauty hidden from them. "How happy we were there," they whispered, their voices tinged with sorrow. Spring came, as it always did, bringing blossoms and warmth to the land, but not to the giant's garden. Inside his walled fortress, it remained lifeless. The birds refused to sing, and the trees stood barren, mourning the absence of the children. Once, a brave little flower peeked out from the ground, curious about the world. But when it saw the harsh notice board and the empty garden, it shrank back into the earth, its spirit crushed. Snow, frost, and north wind claimed the garden as their own. They reveled in its desolation, howling and raging through the empty space. The giant, sitting alone in his castle, shivered in the cold, wondering why his garden remained trapped in endless winter. One morning, as he lay in bed, a sound broke through the silence, soft, sweet, and pure. A song. It had been so long since he had heard such beauty that it startled him awake. Rushing to his window, he saw a linnet singing on a tree branch, and for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of warmth. Peering further, his breath caught. Through a small hole in the wall, the children had crept back into his garden. They sat in the trees, their laughter bringing life back to the garden. Blossoms sprang to life, and the grass glowed with color. The once dull air was filled with the hum of birds and the fragrance of blooming flowers. But in one corner, winter still lingered. A small boy stood alone, crying. The tree beside him bent low, as if trying to help, but the boy was too small to climb its branches. The sight pierced the giant's heart. For the first time, he felt the weight of his selfishness. "How cruel I have been," he murmured, tears stinging his eyes. "This garden was meant for children." Quietly, he stepped outside. The children saw him and scattered like frightened birds. But the little boy, blinded by his tears, stood rooted to the spot. The giant approached him, his movements gentle and careful. "Don't cry," he said softly, lifting the boy in his large hands. He placed him gently on the tree, and as if by magic, the tree burst into bloom. The boy's tears turned to joy, and he threw his arms around the giant's neck, planting a kiss on his weathered cheek. The other children, seeing this, returned, their fear replaced by joy. Spring rushed into the garden, flooding it with light and warmth. The giant, filled with regret and love, tore down the wall with his own hands. "This garden is yours now," he told the children, his voice trembling with emotion. From that day on, the garden belonged to the children. Laughter filled its every corner, and the giant, once so cold and unkind, found happiness in their joy. But he never forgot the little boy. Though the children came every day, the boy with the tears and the kiss never returned. Years passed, and the giant grew old. He watched the children play from his chair, his body too frail to join them. "They are the most beautiful flowers of all," he would say, his voice tinged with wistfulness. One winter morning, he woke to a sight that made his heart leap. In the farthest corner of the garden stood the little boy. The tree beside him shimmered with golden branches and silver fruit, covered in radiant white blossoms. The giant rushed to him, his old legs trembling with excitement. But as he drew closer, he noticed something strange. The boy's hands and feet bore the marks of nails, small but deep. "Who hurt you?" the giant cried, anger and sorrow mixing in his voice. "These are the wounds of love," the boy said softly, his voice serene. "Who are you?" the giant whispered, awe filling his heart. The boy smiled. "You let me play in your garden once. Today you will come with me to mine. It is paradise." When the children came that afternoon, they found the giant lying peacefully beneath the tree, his body still, but his face filled with a quiet joy. The blossoms from the tree fell gently around him, as if the garden itself was saying goodbye.